Hey, so what is the difference between a basic handgun class and a concealed carry class? Well, listen to this conversation between Ryan and I, where we're going to talk about the difference between the handgun 101 class and the concealed carry fundamentals class with Carolina Tactical Training. Hey guys, Brad with Carolina Tactical Training here. This is our first video. This is the first episode of us, talking about all topics firearms and training related. Again, I'm the owner and lead instructor of Carolina Tactical Training. I'm here with Ryan, my main guy in Florence. He's kind of been my side by side guy for a hot minute now. Um, Ryan, just for everybody, tell them a little bit about your background and what this industry and what the journey means to you.
Okay, so like Brad said, I'm Ryan Lee. I'm the training manager and lead instructor for the Florence market for Carolina Tactical Training. I've been shooting my whole life. Got my first gun at 5, and I've always just kind of felt drawn to them. And obviously, as I progressed, I shot more and more. Spent 15 years in the military overall. Did a lot of different things, but uh, taught firearms how to shoot, small arms in the military. And while I was doing that, also on my own. Did a lot of training, worked with a lot of law enforcement, SWAT members on the side, just kind of refining my craft and my skill, and uh, ended up getting into competitive shooting back in 2017, and kind of fell in love with the competitiveness, the training value of it. I've shot in a number of disciplines from 3-gun, 2-gun, outlaw, USPSA, a lot of the big ones. I mainly shoot in USPSA now. And a few years ago, got hooked up with Brad. We got to talking. I was getting out of the military, and decided to come on board as an instructor for Carolina Tactical Training.
Yeah, and it's been a wild ride ever since. Ryan, obviously, with us having retail location, and we've got here in West Columbia with Amos Guns, and then the main CT headquarters here, and the main classroom here. We see a lot of folks coming through here, and a lot of folks that come to you in Florence, and then you and I are trying to do some planning for some other markets, and we get the one question is what's the difference between a basic handgun class and a concealed carry class? And you know, I see a lot of instructors out there that are advertising a concealed carry class, for everybody. And I know you and I have a feeling, and you and I have an opinion. And my question to you is why should somebody take a basic handgun class before they take a concealed carry class?
So, Brett, I'll tell you like this. I tell pretty much every student of mine that comes into one of my CWP classes that if this is the last training that you're going to get with your firearm, I do not recommend carrying it. A lot of people are more dangerous to themselves than an actual, a bad guy with a pistol if they don't have the correct training. But the problem with that is once they complete the CWP class, they have all their paperwork they can legally carry. And the problem is that people will come in, and oftentimes you'll see it as well, that shooters are coming in and they just bought their firearm that week. They just bought their pistol that week. They've never really touched it, really held it. They may have gone out to the range and shot, a box of rounds out of it, not knowing what they were doing. And then they come, and the entire time we're in class, it's kind of looming over their head that they've got this shooting portion to go do. Whereas here at Carolina Tactical Training, we care more about uh, actually informing them of what they can do, what they can't do, and then breaking it down on a case by case basis. I don't like to have a class where you just kind of read from the slides that's mandated by SLED. That's not what I pride myself on. I like being able to go in depth, have conversations with students, so that when they walk out of my class, they know legally what they can and can't do. Because anybody that goes and reads any of the laws on the South Carolina law books, it's about as clear as mud, right? There's a lot
Absolutely.
of there's a lot of gray area in there, and a large majority of my class is breaking that down. And when you only have a 1 day class, you really don't have time to get in depth into marksmanship and stance and grip and all these other things to shoot efficiently, to engage targets efficiently in a life or death situation. So that's just kind of, hey, we got to do the shooting portion. We're going to cover it. But that's not really what a CWP class is about. CWP class is to know how you can carry, where you can carry, things to keep on your mind when you have a firearm, when you do have a defensive use, how to avoid that conflict, things of that nature. So when we go so far in depth with that, you don't have enough time left in the day to cover your basics. And then that leads to getting to the range, and you see a lot of sloppy stuff on the range. And so it would highly benefit anybody that's going into a CWP class, whether with us or another company, to go get a basic class first. Even if you've got experience shooting, myself, I've been shooting for a couple decades now, and I still go and get coaching. I still go and get training. Just having an outside experience eye, watching you, seeing what you're doing, and helping refine some of those smaller things, so that whenever you do get in that situation, that you're fully prepared for it.
No, I agree, and I know you and I share a similar, because a similar thought process. We've talked about this so much through the time we've all been together, and I don't know. You start looking at social media, and you see all these different companies, and you and I have both said, with the initial planning from the early days of CTT, of what sets us apart, I've thought about this when we've wrote curriculum, and when we've done the classes and put classes out. Marketing is what sets us apart, and I always try to look at that, I wanted as a company owner and an instructor and a training counselor is just the professionalism, and with that I think it's improper for us to lead somebody down the wrong path, and I kind of look at it as is if it can put you in jail or if it can get you dead, it's pretty important to be focused on. So there's not enough time in an 8-hour day to give you everything you need to do to be able to shoot effectively and to carry effectively. And that's why we've all talked about, the Carolina Tactical Training journey of starting off with that basic handgun course and bringing somebody in, that Miss Smith that may come in and buy a brand new handgun, whether they buy it from us at Amos Guns or they buy it, from Bud's Gun Shop or whomever. It's a means for them to come into our pipeline. And if they have experience, then great. Then maybe they can go straight to the concealed carry process and go through the class. Unfortunately, we see the numbers, and that right now you're seeing the numbers where there's a lot of people don't want to do the next level training, and yeah, when we teach and we talk about the reasonable person test, and I kind of wonder at some point, is that going to get brought up in court? What continuing education did you do? Yeah, you met a minimum standard, but what else did you do? And I know on my law enforcement side, that stuff got brought up all the time.
Absolutely.
What level of training did you have? What did you have? And we obviously with CTT we do contract classes for other companies, and they don't necessarily vet their students like we do, and when they talk with our students, and I've seen it when I've taught those classes for those on those contracts, of some of those students aren't successful because we've always taken a stance here that we don't rubber stamp anybody, and so it's, if somebody, I like I explained to somebody Friday, we would be your biggest advocate if you do it the right way, because being a client for CTT, in my opinion, in the feelings that I have as a company owner, is if you take a course with us and you follow our curriculum and you follow the law, then you've gained us essentially as a potential expert witness for you. But if you don't do it the right way, then you've potentially given the prosecution expert witness as well, because you didn't follow the process. And that's why I feel like it's important for somebody to understand the fundamentals of marksmanship before they start worrying about defensive shooting fundamentals, and understand how to load, understand how to operate the firearm, understand that, because the concealed carry class is not a shooting class. It's a concealed carry fundamentals course. It qualifies you. Yes, state of South Carolina says you have to shoot 25 rounds in front of an instructor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What does that mean? That means you passed a quantitative test, but that doesn't mean that you know how to do anything. So I kind of wanted to address the elephant in the room per se, because you being one of my more experienced instructors is why you should take a basic firearm class before you take a concealed carry class.
Absolutely. And like I said, you said, you hit the nail on the head, that the concealed carry class is not a shooting class. It has a shooting requirement, but it is not a shooting class. Um, and one of the problems is that people tend to think about defensive shootings like it's a movie, right? It's one that's never going to happen to me, and if it does, I'm gonna see the bad guy first, and everything's going to go slow motion. They're not going to see me. It's going to be perfect day. They're standing still, and everything happens in a movie. But you talk to any law enforcement, any military member, anybody that's been in direct contact in a gunfight, and they tell you it happens at the shittiest time. It happens at the worst possible time. It's raining. It's you don't see it coming. You don't have communication. You don't have any help coming. And have you prepared yourself for that situation? And like I said, in the concealed carry class, we don't have time to cover that. There's just not enough hours in the day. Um, so having, like you said, that those fundamentals on check, having everything so that it's basic muscle memory, having that understanding before you step into class, and then continuing that post class. Like I said earlier, if you come to just CWP class, I don't recommend you carry a firearm. And I get hot water over this all the time because people say, "Oh, it's my constitutional carry. It's my God-given right to carry a gun." Yeah, and that may be, but come to any CWP class and look at some of the people that come through these classes that's actually coming to get training and how they operate a handgun on the range. I mean, how many times have you seen a student almost shoot a fellow student? How many times have you seen a negligent discharge? How many times have you seen somebody have just a basic level malfunction and they can't clear it?
Oh,
Um,
and that happens all the time. That happens all the time when you get those classes, and most of the time you see the poor firearms handling skills from the person that just said the comment you just said. Man, I've been shooting guns my whole life. I don't need to have any more training. But
yep.
when you look at their handling skills and their firearms, and I'm not talking about somebody having to be at the level that we are, running competition or our law enforcement military experience. Yeah, we've shot a lot and we've ingrained those fundamentals in ourselves. But it's it's those guys that, man, I've been shooting squirrels since I was 5 years old enough to hold my granddaddy's 22. And that's typically the guys that when it comes to a malfunction, they have the worst ability of maintaining good marksmanship fundamentals and following the cardinal rules of firearm safety. I mean, they're flagging other people, they're flagging themselves. They don't understand how to keep their finger out the trigger until they're ready to fire. I mean, they fundamentally are not sound, and that's why our handgun 101 class. That's why I suggest that for anybody, even if it's just for a dang refresher, just to understand the marksmanship fundamentals. I mean, the whole crawl, walk, run mentality that we've had, that we talk about often when we've done our in services with our instructors, and when we create our curriculum, is how do we take the client to crawl, walk, run, and that's a big thing I see is most people that think they've been shooting for years is just not prepared.
Yeah, and so there's a few things that I believe lead to that. Um, and when we spoke about this actually on our Carolina Tactical Facebook page the other day, talking about instructors, is that a lot of time guys seem to wrap their ego up in their shooting ability. And they seem, well, I know how to do it. I don't need to listen. That they wrap that bravado up into how they shoot. And that's absolutely the wrong answer. You look at the top shooters in the world. I mean, Eric Grafeld, JJ Rakaza, Max Michelle, Neil Shannon, they all work with trainers. They all work with somebody to help them refine and staying humble, right? It's your duty. You're carrying a firearm. That thing that you have on your waist can take a life like that, whether it needs to be taken or not. So if you're carrying something like that, why would you not invest back into it and be as proficient as possible? So me, like I said, I'm a competitive shooter. I travel all around the Southeast shooting in mainly pistol competitions. But even myself, I go and pay other instructors to train me because even if I know 90% of what is being taught to me, it's worth my time to get that extra 10%, right?
Absolutely.
Um, and another thing I believe leads into, especially in our market, we live in the South. Everybody grew up hunting. Everybody grew up shooting a rifle, as did I. I got my first rifle, a Ruger 1022, when I was 5 years old. So shot a rifle my entire life. Went to the military, shot a rifle, no problem. But when you talk about pistols, pistols are a completely different ballgame from shooting a rifle. It's an entirely new operating system from how much your grip, your trigger squeeze, everything affects your accuracy so much. Just the tiniest movements, and being able to understand that. Because, like I said, a lot of guys say how I've been shooting squirrels since I was 3 years old, but when it comes down to it, how efficient are you with a pistol? And when we go to the range, we only shoot from between 3 yards and 12 yards for the certification. And a lot of times you'll see even the guys say, I've been shooting my whole life. I mean, and they'll shoot a group, this big from 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 12 yards. And
Well,
that's
it's like
in perfect condition.
the private client that you and I, we talked about. I ended up taking care of for you yesterday. I told them, I said, we may not shoot past 7 yards today because of the crawl, walk, run. That if you can't shoot effectively at 3 yards, then why move to 5? If you can't shoot effectively at 5, why move to 15?
Exactly.
And so it's building on those fundamentals, building on the principles of what do we do? How do we build good shooters? I mean, you know, you almost want to say, hey, but it wouldn't be politically correct. Hey, it's the shooter factory. We're not building shooters per se to go commit crime, but how do we build good shooters with good fundamentals? And that's where it really bothers me when people come in to take a class and they're taking a concealed carry class, and I don't want to get off the topic, but they think that I'm going to do everything I need to do to learn how to shoot this gun. And I think that's furthest from the truth. And I wanted to dispel that thought process with us, especially for our CTT classes, because I can't explain what instructor X, Y, and Z next door does, or down the road, or in this region of the state. They do them, we do us. And my thought process is as a company, if you want a quality concealed carry class, then you need to understand how to shoot a firearm before you come to us. Now,
Yeah.
do we have classes to help you get prepared? Absolutely. And we want you in our pipeline because I know the level of instructors we have. You and I've talked about this. We've got a pretty good process in place on how we're vetting our new instructors as coming in. And I want you in our pipeline because I know the work product we're going to put out for you. And so that way we can continue those building blocks all the way through the process. At the end of the day, you're not going to be John Wick, but you're going to be pretty solid. You will be confident in your skills.
That's something that I actually take pride in personally, not just in myself, but it's Carolina Tactical Training. There's a difference in an instructor that's just there to earn that paycheck, to take the money out of your pocket, and an instructor that genuinely cares that you are prepared for the worst day of your life.
Right.
And that's why we do a really, really thorough job of vetting our instructors when we bring them on board, that we have instructors that have a passion for teaching, that have a passion for educating. I've spent the last 15 years of my life learning and gaining all this knowledge and paying other instructors and going to courses and learning these things, sometimes the hard way. And my biggest thing is, why let that pass, right? Why let that go to waste? Statistics say I'll never have to draw my firearm in self-defense on the civilian side a single day in my life. So that's something that's a point for me. I have a passion for teaching. I have a passion for allowing my students to learn. And not all instructors have that. Like I said, you got a lot of guys that, hey, I'm an instructor, and they take really cool Instagram videos. And when you get in class, they're reading off a PowerPoint. You get to the range as fast as they can get you on the range, off the range, collect that money. They're going home. Every one of my students, if they need extra time, we stay at the range extra. If they don't understand something, we stop class, we break it down, we go in depth into laws, because you see it so many times. People come, oh, my uncle said this, and my brother used to be a police officer, and he said this, and you get a lot of bad information that comes in that people hear that's just not factual. So finding instructors that actually understand it, know it, and have a passion for teaching it, making sure that their student understands it is vital. And I don't feel that a lot of people vet their instructors. They just, hey, here's a class, let me sign up, go get this piece of paper that says I can carry, and then they'll shoot 50 rounds a year, stick that pistol on their hip, and think they're prepared for the worst day of their life. And they're just lulling themselves into a false sense of security.
And I tell you, it's funny. It's funny you say that. Is that was honestly the motivation that I had to become a concealed carry instructor. Is you know I was law enforcement, and obviously I carried concealed in the assignment that I had, but I listened to some people that went to some classes that got some really bad information, and it was and then when I looked into the background, I actually went and took a class. I went and took somebody else's class. Still to this date, I have never spoken this gentleman's name. I don't even know if he's still in business, but he was not necessarily putting out good information, and that kind of motivated me to start teaching. And what I learned was, just because you can get a USCCA or NRA certificate and then submit your paperwork to SLED to become a concealed carry instructor, that doesn't mean you're a good instructor. That just means you
Nope.
met an expectation. And the problem I run into is that I see, especially now that I've become a training counselor, because I wanted to be able to cultivate instructors that we wanted for CTT. and have a means for us to give them a certification. At the same time, I didn't have to pick somebody that had a certification because I could pick the right person versus picking somebody that was certified. And the problem is, the thing I see in the industry, especially around South Carolina, is I go get a certification, I go get a sled qualification that I can teach. That means I can teach, but does that mean you're qualified to teach? That means you met an expectation. But when Mr. and Miss Smith sits in that class, like you were just talking about, of us making sure they've got good information, when Mr. and Miss Smith are sitting in that class and they ask a question, are you really prepared to answer the question? Especially in a concealed carry class when the information you're giving means something. They could end up in jail.
It's
They could
literally
end up
life or
they could
death.
be dead. I mean, so to kind of bring it all back together is if we're doing that for a concealed carry class, then there's an expectation that we really don't have time to go over a basic handgun operation. But at the same time, we don't have time to go over an advanced handgun operation. We're here for concealed carry class. And do we want you in our basic handgun class? Absolutely. Do we want you in our defensive pistol classes? Absolutely. But for a concealed carry class, I think both of us said enough today is this isn't a basic handgun class. This is a concealed carry class. We're here to teach you to carry concealed. We're not here to make you a subject matter expert on carrying concealed because even this class in the 6 8 hours we're together just meets an expectation to qualify you by the state of South Carolina to obtain a concealed carry permit. That doesn't make you a subject matter expert on carrying concealed.
No, that
It's a
means
lifestyle.
you met the bare minimum requirements to legally be allowed to carry.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the other thing I've seen talking with other instructors from other companies throughout the industry in this area is I think one of the things that I pride ourselves is teaching some conflict avoidance in our classes. Is the best defense to a fight is not to be in one in the first place.
Bingo.
Is don't be in the fight in the first place. Recognize it, get out of it. But with our pipeline, in that event that you have to use force, are you competent and confident to use force? And that's where I think we set ourselves off more than others is let's teach you a concealed carry class, but hey, come back to these other classes as you choose, and let's make you better. Let's make you better. Our reality-based use of force class with our simulator, some force on force stuff that we may have come down the pipe later. Our defensive pistol classes, things like that, where you are learning more than what the basic handgun class and the concealed carry class puts out.
Absolutely. You're learning how to effectively. You're not learning basics. You got the basics down. When you come to those more advanced classes, hey, you've been through the basic class, you've been through CWP. Now let's start refining. And that actually leads me to ask a question. So, why do you carry a concealed handgun, Brad?
Because the police can't be everywhere all the time.
Yep.
I ultimately, when you look at crime stats, again, I had this conversation with the business group on Thursday that I met with a couple of members. Is when you look at crime stats, what is the average response time for law enforcement? I was one of those guys. I mean, the national average 11 to 12 minutes, but where you're at in Florence, South Carolina, what is the average response time to your house? You're in a more rural area.
Yeah, I'm in the
30,
country.
30 minutes, 40
Yeah.
minutes. I'm not I'm not in a city. I mean, I'm in a suburb area and I'm still at 15 minutes. Well, how much stuff can happen in 15 minutes? If you walk across the parking lot and you get assaulted in the parking lot, how long does it take for something to happen? How long does it take for somebody to get there? Law enforcement, by nature of what it is, law enforcement is just going to be a reaction to what took place. They're there to investigate and enforce the law. They're not able to be proactive all the time. And then when they are proactive, everybody bitches about it. So I carry for me and my family. I carry, and I also look at it as a lifestyle. It's reps on the ball. If I only carry some of the time, am I going to be really good at it? And so I carry because I want to make sure that I'm prepared, I'm safe, and my family's safe.
Exactly. So, and that's I have similar thought processes. When I get asked that question, I carry because I care, right? I care about my life. I care about innocent life. I care about my family's life, and I want to do everything within my power to make sure that if any of that is ever threatened, that I'm able to help solve that situation. I'm able to stop evil in its tracks. And because I care, I want to make sure that I'm prepared for that day when it happens, to make sure that I'm actually prepared for it.
But you're not
Because
carrying to promote your ego.
absolutely not. No.
No, you're carrying because it's and it's yes, it's your right. It's a Second Amendment right. It's in the law. It's we all know that. And not to get into the political side, but some folks. And I actually had somebody tell me recently that was not necessarily a pro 2A person, that they were like, well, some of you guys carry because of your egos. And unfortunately, there is some in the industry that they carry because it's their ego. Oh, it's my right. It's my God-given right. Well, yeah, it's not a God-given right. It's a constitutional right. But it's is it your ego that's pushing this, or is it you have an educated reason why you want to do this?
Exactly. That's something I actually bring up in classes that, and again, hate to be picking on the guys, but a majority of people that carry a concealed weapon are males. And what you typically see in males is that ego, right? And I tell people in my class, hey, I used to box, right? I was pretty good at fighting. When I was younger, I was in my teens and 20s. I would love to fight, right? If I see anything that could cause a fight, hey, I jump in head first. But when you carry a firearm, you have to accept a different mentality, because any altercation you get in then becomes life and death. Whether it's you taking a life, you dropping your gun, them taking your life, an innocent bystander getting killed, you have to take that into account. And so, hey, you got to ego that down. I'm 6'4", 225, and I don't care if you're 5'2", 110 pounds soaking wet. You start arguing with me in a parking lot, hey man, you probably beat me up down the street. I'm gonna go about my way and let you do your business, right? And
That's
it's
right.
it's being able to check that ego and practice that de-escalation of force, right? The only time you should draw your weapon is when it is the absolutely last resort.
That's right. Is it worth going to jail over? Is it worth dying over?
No.
What are you putting it together for you to draw your line in the sand and say, you know what, if this situation gets beyond this, then I'm going to do that. And that's where kind of going back to the original thought process of this is, if we are focusing on teaching basic handgun fundamentals in a concealed carry class, can we focus on having this kind of conversation with our clients? Can we focus on making sure they're safe and protected in their thought process? And I don't think we can. If we're spending a lot of time going above and beyond on basic handgun work, I don't think that we'll have time to talk what's really important for this particular class, and that's concealed carry. And that's how can you safely and legally conceal carry? So, but it's and like I said, that was a big reason why I wanted us to jump on the day, Ryan, was to just talk about it. Because there's so many people that think that, well, I'm just going to go take this class and it's going to qualify me to carry conceal, but it's also going to teach me to shoot a gun. That's not the case. And I wanted to kind of dispel that rumor that especially with our class, we have an entire pipeline, and it's not a pipeline to make where we make more money or anything like that. It's a pipeline so we can break it down in manageable pieces, because thinking in terms of the adult learning process and things like that. What we've seen and what I've seen is most students are willing to sit there by the amount of time their butt's willing to take their time in the seat. And so yeah, we could easily put together a class that's 100 hours, but is that person prepared to sit there for that long and or segment it out? And that's where I think it's important for us to identify those segments. Ryan, what else you got?
Man, we can honestly, like I said, I love this stuff. We could sit here talking for the next 6 hours. I wouldn't get bored. But I don't want to run too long today. I just want to jump over here, like I said, talk about some of those basics and cover what is a CWP class and what it's not. And one thing that we say a lot in our classes is, don't train until you get it right. Train until you can't get it wrong.
That's right. Professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. Amateurs practice till they get it right. And
Yep.
and what do you want to be? And professionalism doesn't come with a pay tag. Is what is your performance? So, but hey guys, hey, I appreciate you guys listening to it to Ryan and I. This is probably the first of many of these kind of a conversation we want to have because we want to put this information out there for you. If you have any questions about any of our classes, please visit our website, carolinatacticaltraining.com. And we'll look forward to having you. Obviously, follow us on all of our social media tags, on Facebook and Instagram at Carolina Tac Training, and then Carolina Tactical Training on YouTube. So we appreciate your time. Thanks, guys.
Peace.
So we just talked a little bit about the difference between that handgun class and that concealed carry class. If you like that video, hit that subscribe button below. That's all you got to do. Hit the subscribe button, drop us a comment, share it with a friend.